All right, so this is chapter Middle Passage. Let's go to the first question. What were the two other names for the Atlantic slave trade? Well, you should already know that by the title, it's going to be Middle Passage. So we've got Middle Passage here, and Middle Passage down here. So one of these is already out. Two by two, the men and women were forced beneath deck into the bowels of the slave ship. The packing was done as efficiently as possible. The captives lay down on unfinished planking with virtually no room to move or breathe. Elbows and wrists will be scraped to the bone by the motion of the rough seas. Some will die of disease, some of starvation, and some simply of despair. This was the fate of millions of West Africans across the 3.5 centuries of the slave trade on the voyage known as the Middle Passage. Wait a second. Okay. Two philosophies dominated the loading of a slave ship. Loose packing provided for fewer slaves per ship in hopes that a greater percentage of the cargo would arrive alive. Tight packing captains believed that more slaves, despite higher casualties, would yield a greater profit for the trading bloc. Doctors would inspect the slaves before purchase from the African trader to determine which individuals would most likely survive the voyage. In return, the traders would receive guns, gunpowder, rum, or other spirits, textiles, or trinkets. Do I need to read them? Where is it? Hang on. Oh, it's all the way down there. I wonder if these are out of order. Let's see. Let me go down. Yeah. We'll answer that one later when it comes up. This type of packing provided for fewer slaves per ship in the hopes that a greater percentage of the cargo would arrive alive. This is going to be loose packing. Here, I'll go ahead and tell you that number one is Middle Passage and transatlantic slave trade. So captains believed this type of packing would yield a greater profit at the trading block despite higher casualties, and that is tight packing. All right. Where in the... Okay, so we need to go back up now. All right, let's see. The Middle Passage, which brought the slaves from West Africa to the West Indies, might take 3 weeks. Unfavorable weather conditions could make the trip much longer. Slaves were fed twice daily, and some captains made vain attempts to clean the hold at this time. Air holes were cut into the deck to allow the slaves breathing air, but these were closed in stormy conditions. The bodies of the dead were simply thrust overboard, and yes, there were uprisings. So here's our, and this is why it's transatlantic. So we've got the Atlantic Ocean right here. And think about the word, like trans is transitioning. So transportation, just you're going from one to the other. So transatlantic is moving from the Atlantic across. So it's going this way. All right. And you can also see in here, and actually I'm going to go back down to that map. If you look, you can see the percentage of where people were brought. So you can see here, this 60% were going to the West Indies here. 35% were going down to like Brazil. So let me go back down to that question. yeah, so, and this is probably a good spot because if you take people, good, I say good as it, like, let's just say if we were bringing quote unquote product in, all right, which, so good is not actually good. But this area, you could get people to go up and down and into, so it's kind of a starting point. Maybe effective, I should say effective. All right, so let's see. It better be North America, but I thought there was something in here. Hang on. Upon reaching the West Indies, the slaves were fed. Why that happened? I don't like that at all. Okay, upon reaching the West Indies, the slaves were fed and cleaned in the hopes of bringing a high price on the block. Those that could not be sold were left for dead. The slaves were then transported to their final destination. It was in this unspeakable manner that between 10 and 20 million Africans were introduced to the New World. So they would just like have this block and they'd be auctioning off whoever. The Atlantic slave trade or transatlantic slave trade took place across the Atlantic Ocean from the 15th through 19th centuries. The vast majority of those who were enslaved and transported to the New World, mainly on the triangular trade route and its middle passage, were West Africans from the central and western parts of the continent who had been sold by other Western Africans to Western European slave traders, with a small minority being captured directly by the slave traders in coastal raids and brought to the Americas. The South Atlantic and Caribbean economic system centered on producing commodity crops, making goods and clothing to sell in Europe, and increasing the number of African slaves brought to the New World. This was crucial to those Western European countries which, in the late 17th and 18th centuries, were vying with each other to create overseas empires. Alright, so yeah, it is. It better be North America. I thought somewhere I heard South America, but... oh no, Central America. Derp. Derp, 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 derp. Alright. Alright. How many slaves were brought to the West Indies between 1650 to 1860? Alright, so this entire map was 1650, 1860. And we want to know how many went to the West Indies, which is right here. And it has a little pointy thing right here that says 4.5 million. So, 4.5 million. Alright. Question 6. According to the map, what was the destination of slave transport? This is the current name for the West Indies. Alright, so the destination right here was Caribbean, destination of slave transport. Right here. So it's going to be Caribbean. Or Caribbean, however you decide to pronounce it. Number of African slaves imported to the Americas by various European powers. Voyages database, Emory University. So we can see the years. These are the... so this is the European country. And this is the... wait. Portugal, Brazil... So this is supposed to be where, alright, imported to the Americas. Okay, so these are the guys that are importing them. So Spain, Portugal, Great Britain, Netherlands, blah, blah, blah. Alright. So we're going to match the number of slaves imported to the country that imported them. It's interesting, look at how many years some countries were at 0 and then some changed to 0. So yeah, that is actually, so you can see through here when things increase and decrease. So Spain kind of increased here, 1601, that's kind of the high point, 83,000. And then 1801 is where it goes way, way up. And then we're up again in the, so 1800s for them. Portugal also kind of, ooh, man, Portugal was busy and stayed busy. They were in the millions. Okay, well, there you go. Britain didn't do, well, I don't know. Some of these are pretty big freaking numbers. Netherlands, not as much. So Britain stopped. Britain and Denmark were the earliest ones to stop. Then we had Britain, Netherlands, France, and Denmark. And here, yeah. All right, let's match them up. All right, so 3,259,440. Who has that? That's this one right here. It is Great Britain. All right, so are these in this order for you guys, or does it shuffle these? Like, it's in order? Okay. All right. So then, all right, so this is, we're going to see, I'm going to put like 7, we'll put 7.1. So the question is 7. The first one is Great Britain. All right. Then we've got 1,381,404. So we're here. This one right here is France. Then we've got 5,848,265. Here's this one. That is Portugal, I do believe. $1,061,500 and something. 61. Okay. That is Spain, I do believe. Yep. Spain. Then 554,000 is this one. The Netherlands. Netherlands are also Holland. Right, 305. That's this one here. Is USA. All right, and then we've got the, I guess, 111. Aha. Over here, that is Denmark. Okay.